Man, these headlights are so bad. Why did I buy this car? Oh yeah, that's why I bought this car. A few weeks ago, I was cruising around on Facebook and kind of like, looking for a new project car, because that's what all car guys do, always looking for a new project car. And I came across a 240 that I kind of wanted, or an S chassis. This was the cheapest S13 with an SR that I have seen in a very, very long time. And there's a reason for it, but we'll get to that in a bit. I have never owned an S chassis, although I've driven quite a few of them, and I've never owned anything with an SR20, but I've driven a couple of them, and I've always liked SR20s. I know some people don't like SRs, and it's probably because they learn from experience of why SRs aren't great. But I figured this was a great opportunity for me to learn why they're not great. So I bought this car from a guy named Justin, and he runs a shop. He does a lot of like car part outs and things like that. So he finds good deals on cars on Facebook Marketplace, or people send them to him, or he'll go find them, and then he'll part them out and make some money. But every now and then he gets a car that's just too good to part out. So then he'll post it on Facebook for a good deal for somebody to come get, because it costs him too much to part it out, but it's also a complete enough car that somebody else would want it more complete. And that's kind of what this was. This is obviously an SR20 240SX, which is what I've kind of wanted to look at. I don't necessarily care for S14s. It's just a personal thing. I don't like them aesthetically. And I know some of you guys are going to go like, oh, Devin, but you're a Toyota guy. How could you buy a Nissan? Well, S chassis have been going up in value quite a bit lately. Just like AE86s are going up, the same thing with S chassis. So many of them have been drifted over the years and turned into full race cars, and they used to be so cheap, but now you really can't find them for very cheap anymore. I've never owned an S chassis, and this kind of get to the point where these might not be affordable for me anytime soon, again, unless I come into a bunch of money and get like YouTube famous. So hey, like, comment, subscribe, share, all that stuff. This one, I'm super stoked because I got it for $4,500 bucks. $4,500 is a decent deal for a 240 now, let alone one that has an SR20 in it, even ones that have problems. So there's quite a few good things about the car, but before I get into the good things, I should probably show off the bad things and talk about what I'm going to need to fix on this car. These headlights are really, really bad. They remind me of like the Moret style headlights. Like, I got started in cars with Subarus, so I remember the Moret style headlights from like the Bug-Eye WRXs, and I was never really a fan of them. And I really think that these headlights on 240s, they're just not aesthetically appealing. So that's one thing I obviously need to get sorted out, and I've already started on it. I got some headlight buckets and covers over here. They're not perfect. I'm going to need to find some more parts for them, but I've already located those. I guess we can jump into the worst part about this right off the bat. The valve cover isn't bolted down because they're looking into it. It will start and run, but from what Justin told me, there's a bottom end, something going on, at least low compression on one cylinder. When I was talking to his technicians when I picked it up, it's knocking. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, it's just a bottom end issue. Just need to do like rod bearings or something, that'd be great. But also I know that on SRs, when you add boost and other things and start messing with them, if you don't have proper engine management or a good tune, the pistons seem to melt pretty easily. So rod bearings or melted piston are okay. I'm okay with that as long as the head isn't damaged. So I need to get into that. I bought it without even knowing. I thought about bringing a borescope with me and pulling the spark plugs, but I figured, yeah, let's just gamble. There's quite a bit of hardware that's missing, like the valve cover nuts. Like, I found a couple of them just like chilling randomly. I don't know where they go. I can see that some of the hardware has been replaced, like these injector bolts, with other like hardware store bolts, not actual like proper ones. There's a lot of loose hardware in the car, so I do have some stuff to sort out as far as that goes. Also, the wiring isn't super clean. There's some vacuum lines running around that I'm going to want to fix up and get tidied up. Another problem with the car is obviously it needs a paint job. It's primered, and so I need to paint it or do something with it. And the thing with buying a car that's already primered is you really don't know the quality of the body underneath. So I am a little concerned about that. I think the plan is just to sand off all the primer that's there so I can see what's underneath. I already did find a few rust spots too, so that's not super great. But I mean, things like the hatch has some rust in it, which is pretty common for these. I'm going to see if I can clean it up. I might weld a patch panel in there. But also some stuff, I think I saw some rust on one of the rockers. That's pretty much it as far as the bad goes. Obviously the bottom end, the engine rebuild is going to be a problem. So we'll jump into that later, in another video. I'm going to get this engine pulled out and see how bad it is. But we should talk about the good, because there's a lot of good things about this car. A lot of good. Obviously, one of the major good things is it has an SR. That's awesome. Another good thing that I noticed is, it's got some aftermarket pulleys on it, which makes me, kind of happy. Some nice little dress-up pieces. I'm also very excited because it has all of the AC components. Everything for air conditioning is here. There's a few other things like this coolant overflow tank, a nice aluminum tank. The wiring is complete. It does run. It will start and run, but I haven't started it because I know it's got some bottom end stuff. I don't want to mess with that. Another thing that I noticed too, I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but there is Greddy stamping on the intercooler here. So I know at least the intercooler core is Greddy, and the welds look pretty quality, so I wouldn't be surprised if this is an actual Greddy intercooler kit. All the tubing looks pretty nice too, like it doesn't look hacked together, so I'm hoping and thinking this is a legit Greddy intercooler kit. All right, hopping right over into here, I noticed that this is a tubular manifold. And let's see if I can find the badge on it. I know I saw the badge earlier at one point. So right there's an ISR logo. So it's an ISR turbo manifold. And this is like the schedule SCH10 tubing or whatever. So this is a pretty quality manifold. I think they sell for like $500 or $600. So that's a pretty nice piece to have on here. Now I don't know if you'll be able to see it in here. Probably not. But the turbo looks like it might be an upgrade or something. And I say that because I did notice some AN stainless steel braided lines going to the turbo. So it's possible that it's an aftermarket turbo or an upgraded turbo, which could be a good or a bad thing, right? I wouldn't mind a stock SR20 turbo on this. I'm not planning on doing anything crazy with the car, so that could be good or bad. Another good thing about the car is that even though it's all primered and I don't know what the bodywork quality is underneath, I did notice that none of the 4 fenders are rolled from what I could find. The front fenders and the rear quarter panels, the rear quarters, they're all stock unrolled. So that means this car really hasn't been modified a whole lot. At least the chassis anyway. I also climbed underneath like under here, peeked at the frame rails, and they look pretty solid. And back to the engine, another thing on the engine is there's an aftermarket oil pan. Now I don't know, this looks like a Tomei style, but it could also be ISR because ISR makes a similar style oil pan. So with having an ISR manifold, it wouldn't surprise me if that oil pan was also ISR. All right, let's see if I can climb inside of the car and show you what it's like inside. Inside is pretty decent. It's got this reclining Sparco bucket seat. It's a complete interior. Looks pretty good for the most part. Obviously has some things that need to be tidied up or sourced. A lot of 240 dashes are cracked. A lot of S-chassis dashes are cracked. So I'm going to have to get some sort of dash cap for that. I've seen a few of those that are pretty good. And then another good thing, that's an RS enthalpy ECU, meaning this has a tune on it. RS enthalpy does chips on stock ECUs. So this is like a chipped stock ECU, 62, whatever that is. Also, the back is pretty clean here too. I'm not complaining about that. Everything is clean, everything is complete, aside from a few things, like I need to source that bit, and the center thing here on the radio and stuff is cracked. The AC control is missing a knob, so I'm gonna have to try and source that. But that is a turbo timer there, I believe too. So that's a turbo timer. That's pretty neat. And then in the trunk, I can see the trunk is pretty complete. That is an SR20, looks like a blacktop ECU right there. And then it comes with these shocks. They look like they're new, but they're from a brand called Stag, S-T-A-G-G, so they're not super high quality. But hey, it's new shocks. And it has a little bit of aero. It's got this little, it's got this cute little spoiler on it. It's a little bitty guy. And yeah, I also forgot to mention this. This came with the car too. This is an AEM Series 2. I took it out of the car to take it home to look at it, so that's what we're looking at here in my office. You can see it's got a little bit of black paint and some stuff on it, and the connector isn't for, you know, an S13 SR20, the red top SR20, which is in it. It looks more like a kooky S14 connector style, or like an Infinity G20 SR20 DE. So I think that's what this is for. I tried to power it up with the USB, plug it into my computer, but it needs 12 volts from a car to be able to look at it, otherwise I was going to pull the map. So if you know what this is from, let me know. I don't think it's something that I want to use or can use, so I'll probably sell it to try and help fund the build here. The taillights look pretty clean. I don't think they're cracked. And then, it's going to be a little dark to see, but it does have an exhaust on it. This looks like a Megan catback exhaust. I'm not sure what the downpipe is yet because I haven't been able to climb underneath it super far. Over on the driver's side here, it does have a boost gauge, so that's kind of neat, I guess. The carpet is really clean. So, I mean, well, it's dirty, but I mean, like, it's not torn up, so that's a good sign. Yeah, I'm just super stoked overall. This is going to be a really good project for me. Like, even like the stock steering wheel and stuff. Yeah. So yeah, I'm super stoked about this project. Like, this is good. This is a good basis for me to build like either a street car, or it could be like something a little bit different. I've already got drift cars. I've got my Drift 886 and my hatchback resto mod. So this could be like a road race kind of autocross car. But with how complete it is, I don't know if I want to do that. I'm also trying to decide what color to go with it. I think I want to repaint it the same like original color. That way, like the door jambs, the engine bay, and all that stuff match. But if you've got ideas, go ahead and put them in the comments. I think my problem is that I don't know what colors would match this original color. Like what would go good together, the primary and secondary. Because that's one of the things I don't like about a lot of cars, that they'd repaint the outside a different color, but they don't paint the door jambs, and so it just looks weird when you open the door or check the under the hood or something like that. So what do you think? Should I do a more restoration kind of project and make this like the 240 that we should have gotten in the US, or the S chassis we should have gotten in the US? I've never really been a fan of 240s that have the stock engines, the K24E or DE, because the KA it's a truck motor. It's not a performance car motor. Really, it's not. So I'm really happy this has the SR. I feel like this is what we should have gotten anyway. So should I do that? A clean street build? I mean, it's got a lot of stuff for AC. The only thing I got to figure out is the AC compressor. I know the lines that come on the US S13 don't bolt up to the SR20 AC compressor, so I know there's a bracket that I can bolt an S13 AC compressor to the SR. Do I do that? Do I try and adapt the lines? I don't know. I could put AC in this, and this would make a super sweet street car. Or do I spend a little bit more time and money and fix it up, you know, put like a limited slip in it and put some good suspension on it and do all that stuff to make it a good, like one of those daily, you could daily drive it but also take it to the track on the weekends? I don't know. Let me know what you think. Go ahead and put it in the comments below, because I'm curious of what everybody else thinks. This is my first dive into an S13, building one. I've worked on them before. I know quite a bit about them, and it was time to diversify myself. So I'm sure that I'll have questions as I go along with the build, because it's the first time I've torn into an S13 on my own, like of my own, I mean, and the first time I've torn into an SR. There's things you think I should be keeping an eye out for when I build the bottom end, when I rebuild it, or the things that I should do or shouldn't do. Like, let me know all that stuff too. All right, that's it. Next video about this car, I'll hopefully have it in my garage and start tearing into the engine so we can see what's bad and what's broken and come up with a game plan to address that. Because I need to know what to do with that first before I start doing the bodywork and everything else. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.